Yo, welcome to the Nerdy Soul, where we do shoes and board game reviews. My name is Chris, the Geek in Sneaks, and I am so excited to bring you a nerdy preview of Fate of Venterra from Korrosive Games, designed by Zachary Kuntz and Nathan Ball. This is one of the games on my most anticipated games list for 2025, and I'm excited to kind of talk a little bit about the game, what I like about the game. I'm not going to do a full nerdy score because this is a Kickstarter preview, and we're gonna do a little bit of what's going on at the table and hop right into the components and everything like that. So join me at the table and let's dive in. So here at the Nerdy Soul, I do reviews and previews a little bit differently. I have my own method called the N.E.R.D.Y method that I'm going to be breaking down games and talking about them. Normally I assign a score from 1 to 5 for every category. For previews, I'm just gonna tell you what I like about those categories. Since this isn't a final product, all these components and everything you're gonna see in this video is all prototype. So it's subject to change during the Kickstarter, but honestly, this is a really good looking prototype. All the components are snazzy, 3D printed, things look fantastic. I think when they're finally molded in plastic, they'll look great. This is launching 2025, March of 2025. And definitely one that I'm super excited to see what they do throughout the campaign. I met Zach, one of the designers, at Geekway to the West in St. Louis, and he's been a good friend of mine ever since. And so take that with a grain of salt as I talk about this game. I want to be very transparent about that, but I will say that there is a lot to love in Fate of Venterra, and knowing the amount of effort that Zach has put into this game, it only makes the game that much better. So, Nerdy breakdowns, Nerdy Soul reviews consist of 5 different categories. N.E.R.D.Y. The N stands for novelty. All right, and so this is how unique or innovative the game mechanic is. This all can play into theme as well. E is for engagement. How well does the game keep you engaged during gameplay? Not just you, but the other players around the table. Does it make you want to stay and sit with it, or do you want to walk away, things like that. R for replayability, how enjoyable the game remains after the first play. So the next time you play it, whether it's the same night or later down the line, how exciting is it the second time and third time that you play it? Does it make you want to come back to it? And does it have that replay value? D is for design. Now this is very general. It's the quality of the game's components. It is artwork, overall presentation, table presence, everything that's from the rule book, graphic design, everything like that. And then finally, the Y is yay factor. Yay factor is how much fun and satisfaction you get from turns at the end of the game. How fun is it? So those are going to be the categories we're going to be talking through today for Fate of Venterra. So let's start with N, novelty. Fate of Venterra is categorized as a 4X game. 4X really just means the game is super long. You're going to be playing this for a minute, but really 4X, what it means is it's an acronym for explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate. So in the game, you're going to be doing those things. You're going to be exploring the lands. You're going to be expanding your reign over those lands, expanding your army, your territory, your influence, exploiting the scenarios, that might be influence, things like that, and then exterminating your opponents or exterminating things in the game. Fate of Venterra does a really good job of being this without dice. A lot of these games usually have dice in them for combat. This is a 4X, but it does a really good job of not overstaying its welcome. You're always really engaged every time. And so for novelty, what does it do that's different? No dice in combat. You're using cards for combat. So on your turn, to start your turn, you're going to have a set of cards in your hand. These cards are sort of your determining moves. You've got a maneuver card, you've got a plan card, you have a charge card, and you have a reinforce card. So every turn or every start of every round, there's 6 rounds in the game, you are going to choose 2 of these cards to act out during that turn. So everyone will select 2 from their hand to start, and then they will all reveal simultaneously their chosen actions. And then according to your influence track, your priority, you're going to be doing those, whoever's ahead of the other person. So if you are number one on the priority track, you will then be acting first. So you will get to do these actions. What's really cool about these is now you're going to be able to do a sort of 1, 2, 3 kind of thing. So if you're maneuvering, you're marching any number of units from a single territory into another that has supporting unit, and then you can buy and upgrade or recruit a unit. For planning, you can reserve up to 2 side quests. You can also then move people or get to coin. Let's see where I put the other ones at. For charging, that's really where you're going to be starting to charge and attack people. You're going to march any of your new units into a single territory, and support a unit there. You can also buy more for your army or get to coin reinforce. You're going to recruit people onto the map, into a place that you have control. You can upgrade then one of your buildings. You can build buildings as well. So you take these actions, you do these things, and then you get right into the 4X side of things. So I really like the aspect of it's easy to understand, it's easy to play, but you don't have these overwhelmingly large turns as long as you're playing with people that can kind of get it going pretty fast. So you are able to move your army into another army in a different hex, and that's where you're going to start battles. And so this goes back into the idea of novelty. So when you encounter someone in a battle, you move your pieces into an opposing hex area, and then you have engaged them in battle. And so what you're going to do then is you're going to have these cards that you can then play to support those troops further. So all of these different characters, all these different pieces on the board have power. And that power is identified on your player boards and everything like that. Also, you have asymmetry between every player. And so if I attack you with more power than what's there, then we clearly know that I'm winning that to start. Then you select one card from your hand and you start the game with a couple, and then over the course of the game, you can buy more. For instance, like you have an enforcer that has a one attack and 1 defense. You've got an executor who's got 2 and 2, things like that. And then you have, other 4 really powerful cards, right, that have different abilities and such. And so you can then play one of those cards face down. You both attack and defense will do this. And then you will both reveal simultaneously. Now, you could be bluffing and not play any card. You could actually play one of your action cards. You could have bluffed and played a reinforce, right? And then the other player could have played one of their army cards and wasted it. So I really like how battling is very streamlined in that way. And I think that's a really good aspect of this game. It makes it very unique and very different. Also, what's important is as you're battling, every time you start a fight, you're going to go up the battle track, and that's going to get you victory points. It's going to get you bonuses as you do that. Every time you build a building, you're going to get more points. It's all about getting those victory points at the end of the game. And I really like that about this game. You've got some traversal things throughout here where certain buildings can be built on stuff. If you build boats, you're then able to move your troops through the water faster, and it saves you a step, and you're able to move quicker. You're able to take over people's objects and their buildings when you defeat them. So if you defeat a fortress, then you take over for that. Sometimes fortresses can't be destroyed. And one really cool thing is you're able to actually combine these components into one thing. So for instance, this is an outpost. This is one of the things you can build in the game. Really great 3D print here. This will look great when it's in final production. So if you build this, and then throughout the game, you also build this here, you can put that on top. And now that is an even more powerful structure that's going to help you. And you've got variability with this throughout the game. You also have asymmetry between players, and so you've got different factions here, and the art on this is just killer. I'll get into that a little bit later. I'm focusing on novelty right here, but you've got asymmetry between all those. It is very unique in that way, and it plays faster than other 4X games. If you want to play Tower of Imperium, it's going to take you 10 days, 4 days to do it. You play Fate of Venterra, you're going to get a game in, a 2-player game in 2.5 hours, 2 hours maybe. That an hour and a half if you really know, if you played it a couple times. 3 players, I think 3 players is really the sweet spot for this game. Played some rounds at 2, played a game at 3, introduced this to other people at 4, and it plays well for me at 3, 4, but 2 is really great as well because you have variable setup. So that is a little bit into novelty for this game. Let's move on to engagement. Now, E for engagement. With Fate of Venterra, you're always going to be engaged because someone takes a turn, then you take your turn pretty quickly. Even if they're building things and they're doing something on the mastery board where they're going on a side quest, they're getting that. They're actually not doing the side quest until the end of the round where everyone's kind of completing their side quest together. So you don't have that lag time of, hey, I'm going to do this, now I'm going to do this side quest, and I'm just waiting on you to do your turn. Also, if someone attacks you, you both are participating. It's not this roll dice, see what happens. You have the cool bluffing mechanic built into this that I really like. It adds tension to your decision. Well, I don't know what they're going to play. I have my troops. I don't want to waste it. That adds a lot of engagement to the game. So even though it's a 4X, it's going to take a minute, you have a lot of great moments in it that's going to keep you wanting to play it. So big props to the design team for keeping you engaged throughout the whole game, even though it's long. And you've got a lot of moving pieces, but it's definitely engaging. Even if you're playing your own thing here and you're doing your own economic scale or fighting scale with your army, you're going to have a really good time and everyone at the table is going to enjoy it. Now let's talk about replayability. So I hinted at this a little bit earlier, but you've got different factions built into this. You've got a modular player board, or modular game board, excuse me, with the hex. So that is really great. All of these have got some really cool lore. They all play differently. And what I really like about this is you have a complexity scale. So you can see it tells you how complex a faction is. You also have scales letting you know how to play aggressive or economic with this. And so you have variable setup too. Your starting resources are different for every faction. So depending upon who you choose, you're going to have different setups. So every game you might choose based off the color to start, because I like to play yellow or I like to play blue. That might be who I choose. After that, you learn the game. You're like, no, what, I like to fight. So let me go ahead and get the pack, because that's their main thing, is fighting. So you have to fight in this game. It's not something where you can just kind of avoid it. You need to fight because you need to go up the track. You need to build your things. You need to get more cards in your hand to act. You need to get God cards, powerful bonuses. You need to get those side quests. You got to be balanced. And so if you lean really heavy in one direction and then lose or win that game, you can come back and then do it again. Another really great thing about this is that as you're exploring the board, you set up the board with variable setup with these exploration tokens. And so when you move into a hex area with this, you get to reveal that and get that bonus. So you get a lot of really cool moments where you're getting little bonuses just from moving around. You don't even have to fight. So really cool setup in that way. Every game is going to be different. There's no way you're going to have the same experience. There's a lot of great cards in the game. It's super replayable. If you're into fighting, into war games and things like that, this game is gonna really hit for you in a lot of really cool ways. Okay, so let's talk about design. The design of this game is great. The artwork is phenomenal. It's really, really cool. I'm not one that's usually like, oh, let me play the war game, because normally war games, they focus so much on the combat and the complexity of your turns, and they just really don't pay attention to art and theme or anything like that. And this game is the exception to that. They have really put in a lot of time to make sure icons are really clear. Card quality is great. For a prototype, you've got linen finish cards here. These plastic pieces are going to look really phenomenal when you get into the 3D printing or get into the final production of the game. Small things like this fortress has cobblestone in it. So you can actually see the cobblestone pattern on that. That's just little things like that go a long way. So when you actually put in your warriors, your fighters here, you will put them in and it feels like they're stepping into the fortress, you know? Those little things make a big difference for me as a gamer. And so this is one that I would definitely want to play often and would love playing it at 2-player, 3-player. 2-player, the map is actually quite big for 2-player. For other games that I've played too with this sort of area control thing, the map always feels constrained. And I feel like, you know, you're covering spots with the map and it feels sad. I'm like, well, I can't even use that side of the map. The cool part about this is the whole map is there. It's there, you know. You don't see hidden parts. You just get to go explore it. And you get to take over and you get to fight. And you can also set up differently too. So one game I can set up on this side and you can set on the opposite side of the table. As long as you set up up to 3 hexes away, or at least 3 hexes away in initial setup, you can go. So you might say, well, let's just have a real all-out slugfest. You can set up sort of close to each other and just go right at it. So big props to design. All these cards have unique artwork on them. You know, there are a few repeats, but that doesn't bother me at all because there's so much detail in all of this. Like, I'm a big fan of this Enforcer guy right there. That is sort of one of my favorite cards. And the Reckoner, this is another, I like playing this faction because it's like Thor with a sword and Harry Potter all in one. But design wise, A+. If I could give it a score, I would, but I can't. It's just it's great. Well done to the whole team. And finally, we've got Y for the yay factor. There's a lot of good yay factors in this game. There are multiple times when you win a battle that you say, that you just pump your fist, right? The first time I demoed this game at Geekway, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just kind of was growing at it. You know, I didn't really get a full teach-in and I just said, well, let me just play. And I had fun then because I learned how to fight very quickly. And that's a testament to the game design. And so for me, there's so many little moments in here where you can celebrate your turns, feel clever, feel smart, whether it's you get attacked and you play the right card secretly to actually win the battle or tie, so that way they lose, they retreat, or whether it's I've played enough battles where I keep just getting in them, but I'm surviving and I'm moving up the track and I'm getting points that way. If it's I'm building up my fortresses and I'm adding these components on top of one another, for me, that is well worth all of the moments in the game. And then at the end of the game, you know, you don't have this moment of like, all right, there's no player elimination, which is great. You end the game, you add up your points, and whoever had the most victory wins, and you decide the fate of Venterra. So I think that it's got a lot of satisfaction built into it. Every round, every turn, you're going to have some really good moments in this game. So highly recommend Fate of Venterra in the yay factor category. So thank you for joining me for this nerdy preview of Fate of Venterra. I think this is a game that you should totally support if you are really into thematic fighting Civ / 4X games. If you want a different experience, this is one that I think will fit for you. I also really enjoy the box size. You know, you can kind of get a scale according to my head. I like games that are different than just squares. It's got some great components. Table presence is really, really nice. I am one that doesn't typically play long 4X games all the time. I only get a certain amount that I get to play because of the game group I have. But this is one that we had a great time with, and that's saying something because we typically won't be able to do that with everyone's got kids and stuff like that. So anyway, Kickstarter link in the description. This should be posted at the same day that they launch. So go out and check it out. If you want to support, definitely supporting a good indie publisher is the way to go. If you have any questions or anything about the game, let me know in the comments. Be happy to dive in further to more of the factions or any of my other experience with the game. But until next time, stay nerdy, keep that soul dirty.